There we go.
Jake, you're up late.
Yeah, I figured I'm trying to track all the items, getting ready for the release. So I figured this would be good to come to in person. But I'm also very sleepy, so I'm excited to be done with this and go to sleep.
9:30.
It'll be bedtime by the time this is done with Justin.
It's great. Well, let's get started so we can get Jake to bed. I had a silly one for team updates, but it's Gabe's 1-year anniversary, who's not on the call, but happy anniversary to Gabe. He's been at GitLab a year, and I don't know what the plan team would be like without him. So, and I really appreciated John's response to my post in the plan room that said he's going to read, what book was it? Some Lean Scrum book or something along those lines. I had a good laugh about that. So happy anniversary, Gabe.
In honor of Gabe's first anniversary, he's going to read the.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool. And then I had the next one too. I didn't put my name on it. Oops. So click that link. But I thought it was interesting. So Gabe's been working on moving, actually broader context. So product org, we're all trying to align across all the stages and all the groups on a MAU, monthly active user metric. And so GMAU stands for group monthly active users. SMAU stands for stage monthly active users. So it took me a while to figure that out. But in this case, Gabe's been working on transitioning project management's MAU, group MAU, from count of unique users creating issues to count of unique users contributing to issues. So counting things like comments, other system notes, activity that someone might take against an issue versus just the individual creator of the issue, under the assumption that one person might create an issue, but 10 people might contribute to that issue over the course of its life, right, in existence. And so that chart's super cool, and it shows a 35% lift in UUs interacting with issues over created. So super cool to see, and it really kind of not we are moving the goalpost, I suppose, but it really shows the level of engagement with issues across the group and the stage too. So for more context, like the SMAU metric, the stage metric really is that, because I try to aggregate unique users interacting with issues, unique users interacting with epics, and unique users interacting with requirements. But most users who interact with epics are also interacting with issues. So at the end of the day, they cancel themselves out. So really the project management GMAU metric is also the planned SMAU metric. So a little context, but I thought that was super cool and worth sharing.
Sweet. Is the plan to try to get numbers for self-managed your usage ping also?
Yeah, there's an issue somewhere that Gabe's tracking. That's a good point. That is .com, not self-managed. But Gabe has an issue tracking that for getting it out of usage ping.
Do we think numbers are fairly similar though?
No, so only 20% of self-managed customers opt into usage ping. So I don't know the actual difference between the net, like the raw numbers between usage ping and between self-managed and .com. But ostensibly, self-managed is a lot larger. Just we only know 20% of them.
Is it only 20? I thought it was higher than that.
I might be wrong. I just saw that number recently somewhere.
It could be right.
Yeah.
Because it's opt-in, I believe.
Correct. Right.
So it makes sense that it'd be somewhere low around there.
Yeah.
Cool. That's exciting. We should, I don't know. I think Keenan added first of the month metrics highlights update after talking with him last week. It'd be good to highlight this as I don't know, are we considering this like our KPI that we want to track and we want to try to, as a team, improve on? Like, is
Yep.
that the goal eventually? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we
So
should.
each group will have a GMAO metric that is sort of the primary metric for each group. And then we have this like SMAO metric that we'll roll up to. But for Q3 OKRs, we will likely have a product OKR that is centered around improving that MAO metric. I think we're still debating on, is it SMAO? Is it a GMAO? Like, what does it look like? But yes, there will be one. And of course, there's supplementary metrics that support each of those things. And so we can definitely dig in more deeply as a stage if we were interested in it. But yeah, set a goal for the stage-wide metric probably.
Cool. So I wonder, because even if we have an OKR in the next quarter to improve on that number, because we're not going to want a new OKR every quarter, it'll probably be, or maybe we do have an OKR just to always improve on that number, or it being a KPI to always improve. It'll be interesting how we handle that metric on each of the groups as we move forward.
My hope is that we settle on that metric, like we don't change it, and we can start to see a trend month over month or quarter over quarter and keep a similar OKR every quarter and just increase our target, or like make our goal harder to hit each quarter as we ship features and as we improve the product, right?
Cool. Looks good though. Exciting to have those type of group level metrics.
Mm-hmm. Demos?
Flora, you're up first.
All righty. So I think this is going to be more like a general update about swim lanes, because visually there hasn't been a lot of changes since last week. I've mostly been working on integrating with the backend. I'll talk about that right after. The small changes are headers and epic tiles are now sticky. So we can scroll here and it scrolls nicely without weird overlapping behaviors. That was fun to fix. And when we scroll horizontally, epic tiles are also sticky. And even when it's really long, like if you can see this one, it's long, it needs to do the ellipsis thing, and I still need to be able to see the count. That was also fun finding the right styles to get that to work. It's all working now. Backend integration. So the backend work is still in progress. So I haven't submitted any merge requests yet for that, but it's all like what you can see here right now is using group epics GraphQL endpoint to fetch lists in epics. And it's using the new GraphQL endpoint to fetch list issues as well. There are still a lot of tweaks to be made because we still share a lot of components with normal boards that use REST API endpoints, which use a weird issue model that does a lot of data changes in terms of like, oh, this attribute should be named this and so on. So for now, it's a bit in a weird limbo state where most of it works, but not everything, and it's not good enough just yet. Still a lot of tweaks to work out. We'll see how that goes. Might have to like do a bit of like classic board refactoring so that it's all the same, because like right now we're kind of diverging between classic boards and swim lanes, which is not ideal. So we'll see how that goes. Any questions about that? Comments?
Can you scroll vertically real quick again?
Yeah.
Sorry, up and down.
Yeah. Oh, my brain is a bit weird today. Yeah, vertically is the other way. Obviously, this one.
Cool.
that's what it does.
Awesome. So yeah, the sticky horizontal scrolling is nice. That's yeah, we always have issues with that type of sticky scrolling. So awesome job there. The only question I had then, so when you're saying that we still have a mixture of GraphQL and the REST API, is that within issue cards we're still using some of the data from
it's
our REST?
mostly,
Okay.
I think this is where most of the issues I've been encountering are coming from, because we share the issue cards. And so the thing that happens is on the REST API, I'm going to give an example of what's going on quickly. On the REST API endpoint, we have a lot of attributes with like underscore notation and whatever. And the issue model transforms that to nice camel case attributes. And by doing that, we're kind of destroying some of the data when we do the exact same thing when it's coming from the GraphQL endpoint. So I've been working on that to support both. At the moment, it sorts of supports both. At this point, given the current state of the code and how things work, I have to use that model because it has a whole bunch of nice methods to do things to issues. So ideally, so I've also been doing a lot of like exploring the existing code for boards, see what's necessary to move forward with it, to put it fully in GraphQL, Vuex, and so on. The use of models is not a common pattern in GitLab, so I'm hoping eventually we'll get rid of it when we fully move everything to GraphQL and Vuex. For now, we're going to have to deal with it for a little bit longer, I think, because it is a really big refactor.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. How do we do that elsewhere when we're using GraphQL? Because that's essentially how it is. Like we're getting underscores everywhere.
No, we're not. And we're not using like the way boards are built. I haven't seen any other feature built that way because it's like a weird JavaScript board store. It's not Vuex. There's a mix of like REST API calls. There's some GraphQL calls that have been recently added. And it uses that thing where it passes lists, issues, labels, and assignees, I think as well, are passed into like this JavaScript constructor that transforms attributes and adds a bunch of methods on it, like a class, some sort of like object class that you can do a lot of things with. Which is not something we usually do. Usually we have GraphQL endpoint, Vuex action, and you use whatever the GraphQL endpoint returns, you use the object as is. You don't add, you don't transform the attributes. You don't do things to it like we do in boards, which I'm hoping we'll be able to go back to once everything is GraphQL.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd be interested in digging in deeper soon on what it would take for us to commit to that refactor.
So Charlie started an epic on that, and I've started adding more things to it myself. Actually, I can link it in the chat.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd love to read that epic and dig in a little bit.
Of course. Chat. Okay. So it's been created like yesterday or today.
Oh, great.
Depending on which time zone you're in. So yeah, we've started capturing the effort required to make that happen. There's also the sidebar work, which Gabe talked about in the swim lane issue. It is a decent amount of effort, but it will be worth it. And this is what's required to go in epic boards, merge request boards, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely that. Yeah, that's part of what I was asking is like looking around the corner, it probably behooves us to bite this off sooner than later because we're just going to keep running into problems as we try and add more features. It's going to keep
happening. And even for swim lanes, there is still like, I'm trying to get a better feeling of what's required to deliver swim lanes. And we're still in a spot where I think some of that refactoring could benefit swim lanes so that we don't have these like boards diverging from swim lanes in terms of implementation and the type of attributes that are required for each. Like it's a tricky one. As soon as like the first backend merge requests for swim lanes are merged, I'll be able to keep going and maybe like go further and maybe like bump into more of those roadblocks and have a better feeling of what we need to do to make it happen and do it right.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you and great work. And thank you for the creative thinking too on as we try and balance like that tech debt work against like delivering an MVC, right? It's a tough balance. So thanks for digging in and
there are
finding all the paths.
options. There are options to like still deliver swim lanes before doing all that crazy refactor. We'll see where we go.
Yeah.
It's still a bit early to make a decision on all those tiny details like the sidebar thing, the link to issue and so on. But I really want to deliver swim lanes. Honestly, I've been working on it for a while, so I cannot wait to deliver it, even just like the basic functionality for it and just iterate on it.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Oh, yeah. B, obviously, Simon isn't here. So we're trying to finish up iterations, and there were a couple last minute issues that Simon is currently working on, which is why he's not here right now. So we're going to skip this unless anyone has any questions on iterations or wants to talk through anything.
Is there
Jake,
any...
you've been...
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're just waiting for the one MR on the issue list on the iterations report to go in, which is, I believe, what Simon's working on now. So that, fingers crossed, gets in soon. And then once that's in, I think we're good. We have the MR open to default the feature flag to on. Don, I was going to ask you just generally, like, around that process, like other than documenting it and just defaulting it to on, is there anything else that needs to be done there?
Nope. Is there already documentation for iterations?
Yeah, so I updated
okay,
it
cool.
in the MR just to like reflect that it was default on. Actually, I don't know if there's full documentation for the feature, but there like docs exist for the feature flag at least.
Okay.
So I can check into that.
Sorry, real quick. The only other thing that I don't remember if it was in your MR or not, but we need a change log there just for iterations, because I'm pretty sure everything else that was behind a feature flag did not have a change log. So that won't go through. So
okay,
is there a change
so
log
like change
in your
log? No, there's not yet. So just a change log to say like adds iterations as a whatever feature.
Yep.
And then the other, I think Gabe, the last I talked to Gabe, he said to hold off on that, on defaulting to on, but I assume like if we want to land iterations for 13.2, we should default that. We should like get that through.
Yeah, you should default it to on. It's going to be probably the main thing we call out in the release post.
Yeah, I saw. I'm like stressed because I saw that. I like looked at the release post draft and I was like, okay, iterations the first thing on the list, so we absolutely need to land this. So.
Yeah, I mean, we have backups. I'm the lucky soul that gets to be the release post manager this month. But there are backups in case things don't go well. But I think it's a great feature, and I'm excited to talk about it. So we should see what we could do to get it done.
Yeah,
but,
we should get there. I mean, I think it's like, and barring any like massive maintainer stuff, it should. I think everything will go through.
Okay.
Today.
Yeah, and definitely default it to on, because that's always awkward if you have a primary feature that people can't find.
Yeah, so as far as the MR that you're talking about, Jake, that Simon's working on, do you know if that's the same one that is currently in maintainer review? Like, did he just find
that
I think
issue? So. Okay. I think Kushal should have it this morning whenever he gets up.
Yeah, so Simon's probably finishing it up now, and then Kushal will be up in just a couple hours, I'm assuming. And then we'll get him to merge that in, so then we can, because we need to, I don't know what time the cutoff's going to be, but we have to get that default on one before whenever the cutoff is on the 16th, so tomorrow.
Okay, I'll try to, I mean, I'll get it ready tonight, and then who does that, I guess, just needs to hit a maintainer review for somebody?
Yeah, okay. Let's grab some backend maintainer on with it.
Heinrich or something can push it through. Cool, I will do that soon.
It's one of the benefits of having a worldwide remote engineering team, huh?
Yeah.
So you have people around
always
the clock
have someone
who can review and support. Yeah.
Sure. Cool. Well, that's exciting. Iterations, woo. Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, I'm going to demo for Kushal requirements management filtering. Oops. All right, everyone see this? My setup is still not my actual setup, so I don't know if I'm actually sharing the right screen or not.
Yeah,
okay, cool. Requirements management filtering. This is new, this filter bar. We just replaced it with the GitLab, the GL filtered search component from GitLab UI, which is a big step because we were holding off on implementing this bar in portfolio management and project management searches until we tested it out in requirements management. So there were a couple issues that we ran into that were fixed in the past week, where it's now ready to see live action as this is right now. You can see GitLab.com. The only thing, the big difference between this and what filtered search was before in requirements management, I believe, is the history. So here, let me just walk through, because he has a bunch in here. Search works there. You can see they're filtered by Mac. I'm going to refresh, saves it there, which is great. I'm going to go back into here to clear out the list. And then I'm going to look at history, and you can see history is there, and it comes back when I click on that, just like our filtered search elsewhere.
Sweet.
So that's all we have for that. Kushal is also working on now getting this component implemented on roadmaps. So that'll be the next one. Once we confirm everything works there, including like labels, we will then add it to epics and then over to issues.
Sounds like the right progression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Is this a pajamas component?
This is, yes.
Yeah.
This filtered search bar is a pajamas component now, which is nice. We always, the way it was before, it was pretty difficult to make any updates to it, to like add. Like there's a few issues we have on the way we're showing stuff, the way we're showing a list here, especially for like milestones, where I think it always defaults to 4 different things up here. Even if you type in something for autocomplete, it'll still show those other things. So there are just a few small issues that we had been pushing off because it was very time consuming to make changes to the old search. So once we're able to use that component, it should be a lot quicker to make those updates, which is great.
Great. It's awesome.
Cool. Alrighty. If no questions on that, we'll move over to Julian.
Just a second. Can everyone see?
Yep.
Yep. So now we can lock an issue or unlock it without refreshing the page. Lock and unlock. So this applies to MR as well. So. So there are still some rough edges internally because we're using GraphQL for MR, but we're still using REST API for this one issue. So that's something we need to look at. And also there is a spec that needs to be modified. So that's that. Let me move on to that blocking issues count.
So hold on, before you do that. So
yeah.
This is big. I don't know if we demoed this for confidentiality that Scott was working on.
Oh, let me do that then here as well. So, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, Scott's been helping me on this, so.
Yeah, so the issue here started to just change the, I believe the icons that we were using there. But with anything, that touches the sidebars. It's like the sidebars right now are a mixture of really legacy HAML code, some newer Vue code, some just straight JavaScript without any Vue code. There's a mixture of a lot of things. So we've been working on refactoring that sidebar for issues. We were holding off until real time and doing it at the same time as real time. But since we're in a bit of a hold on real time, we decided to take advantage of changing the icons for confidentiality and lock to first refactor those components, but then to also make it feel a little bit more real time than it used to. Because before, anytime you change anything on the sidebar, for most of the components, you would not actually see the change in the main in the main app, and the other way around too, which is super confusing. We've had a few issues about regarding that. So now, Julian went over it, but like when you change locked, it doesn't do a full refresh. It'll actually just change the elements
Correct.
on the main container there, which is great. That's been my dream for that we would work on that for a while. I'm so excited to have I mean, it's a basic thing you take for granted when you're using other products. You making a change in one place and seeing that change in other places, but we didn't have it for a long time, so I'm super excited about it.
Yeah. So what's happening is that so we have a store that's like prehistoric, not Vuex, just prehistoric store of like it's an object store for sidebar, and then we have a sidebar like a Vuex store for the node. What we're doing now is just directly calling on that Vuex store to change the state. So yeah. Then let me move on to the next demo. Works. So I hope GK doesn't break.
Oh, is that what you're doing? Switching branches?
Yep.
It may take a bit to.
Yes.
You may have to migrate.
Hope not.
I tried to do this a couple weeks ago when I was demoing 2 different branches.
I remember.
And, yeah. Here, well, while it's loading, I'll run through the weekly goals for next week for the front end team, just really quickly. So for iterations, next step is charts. So we're going to be working on burn down charts. I don't know if it makes sense to do burn down or burn up charts first. I think Gabe wanted. Oh, refresh should work. I think Gabe may have wanted burn up charts. So we'll talk to him to see if it makes more sense to do burn up before burn down. So that'd be good. We have a few issues to improve just the usability of issues. One of them is enhancing our autocomplete or optimizing our autocomplete. We're working on replacing our old library @JS with Tribute because @JS is no longer maintained. It hasn't been for a couple of years. So it'll be good for.
Will that? Oh, sorry, if I don't mind. No, you don't mind me asking. Will that improve autocomplete in terms of giving me autocomplete results that are more sane sometimes?
Yeah. So that's the issue. That's the feature we kind of took on to work on that tech debt at the same time. So that one we're still working on. The first thing we migrated was @mentions.
Okay.
So yes, that should be what we're working on at the same time. We also need to look at, like, I think right now the intelligence that we have currently, which is primarily just showing, I think, participants, or at least leading with participants,
Yeah.
is done through the back end. So we need to determine if we want to continue or add more logic on the backend side of it, or if we want to try to take advantage of, like, I don't know how much intelligence that Tribute provides. It's what we're still looking into it. But yes, that is something that we hope to work on in the next week. So yeah, swim lanes. One thing we have here is starting to add the sidebar. We'll start off with assignees just because that's what we have as far as the component for real time. So that may be one of the easier ones to bring over. As first part, I'm gonna talk to Flory after this meeting. We have our 101 to discuss what else we want to work on for swim lanes. But we're at the point where, at least on the front end, we'll be bringing in a few other front end engineers. Like Scott has been taking primary on that sidebar refactor, so he's going to help out with the refactor of that for swim lanes.
Cool. And yeah, I think you just answered my question, but I was going to ask, for the remaining work on swim lanes, we are refactoring components away from HAML or legacy stuff into Vue. Like, we're not trying to modify.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, I mean, we need that for everywhere. We need that for all sidebars.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we're hoping to do.
Cool, great.
Okay, and then last one is the epic confidentiality. You can create a confidential epic now, but you don't have a way of changing the confidentiality yet. We are going to work on that in the next week. Ideally, since we just updated that component for issues, that we should be able to reuse a lot of that for epics.
Cool.
Okay,
that's a very GitLab iteration, huh? Let you create confidential epics first, and then let you change the status, and then in a follow-on iteration. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know if we've gotten too many people saying I can't make it public after I make it confidential.
I don't think it's been in the wild long enough yet. I'm sure we'll get someone complaining.
Yeah, that could be it
at some point. Yeah.
It's mostly internal, I think.
Right I see internally enough people doing that with issues, right? Well, they'll something will happen confidentially, and then once a decision's made, they make it non-confidential.
Yeah, you're right. It hasn't been there long enough for something
I don't think it's
to
been there long enough
be
yet.
Public. A security epic hasn't been completed yet.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, back to Julian.
Yeah. So, can you hear me all?
Yep.
So we have blocking issues count displayed here, as you can see. And then we can also click on it. It will take us to the linked issues. It's still in UX review by Nick, and then it has to go through maintainer review, but you should see it soon. Yeah, master branch.
Cool. Can you go back really quick?
Sure.
The list view. Cool. Okay. So the blocked icon. That's great.
Yep.
Yeah, that is great. So this is another one that we have been working on refactoring. The current list view on production is in HAML. We refactored that for Vue a while back, and it's been prioritized recently to get that finished. So we've been working on updating that for different lists. The first one we did was within group issue list. We turned it on, found some issues, fixed the issues, turned it on again, found some more issues. So it's been a bit of a back and forth there, just because it's kind of, that refactor has been sitting there for a while, so it's kind of expected. But where that's almost at the point where we can remove that feature flag. It's also within project issues. It's behind a feature flag there too. So once we turn that on, we'll get them both. And then once this is into master, we should, once we turn that one on, see this also. And then the I think the final thing we're missing, actually two more lists on the refactor: epics and MRs. And that's kind of the next two iterations that we're going to work on for that refactor.
Are we doing the MR one?
Yeah, it's pretty.
I mean,
It's
we've
pretty
done it everywhere else.
basic. Yeah. To do it.
Very cool. That's great. So the whole list view.
Yes, the whole list view. There's still
Everything besides the nav
filtered search.
or the filtered search.
Yeah, and nav. But filtered search, because we were still waiting to use the GitLab UI component.
Yeah.
For
Until
that
you roll
work.
it out everywhere, like
Yeah.
you were saying earlier. Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
once that's done, then this entire page will be view, which will be nice.
We should maybe just for fun. I don't know if there's value in doing this, but track or like come up with a list of all of the components and core pages within Plan that still need to be moved away from Haml. I mean, issues are probably the big one in the sidebar, right? But like just track against how much is left and make sure as we prioritize product work, like feature work, like direction items, make sure we're contributing or including that in estimates and things. So we continue to make progress and can say one day that like there are no legacy Haml components anywhere and everything's been migrated to Vue.
Yes.
There's a road. I know it's a long road.
There is. And we also first need to, so our handbook page is still, I don't know what the exact wording is, but it's Haml. It's like Haml first, Vue when it counts. So I don't know if we've gotten organization-wide buy-in to replace everything with Vue, but I think within the plan stage, like for our stuff, in that it's like there's a lot of interactivity with our product.
Yeah. I feel like I can make the
argument,
the where it counts argument for most of our core features, right? Like issuables, list views, boards.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like the core things that people use in Plan.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that is a good idea. Kind of somewhat related to that is recently we took on, not recently, it's been like a year and a half now, but we moved from Karma to Jest for our front end test. And we just, I think today, had 100% of our tests converted, which is super exciting. But that just, it takes a while. And I think our next thing to work on is replace jQuery, which is going to be that's going to be a fun one too.
Yeah,
totally. We have a decent amount of jQuery in there. And then replace all Haml with Vue. So a few things.
If I may add something on that, where we have an issue that I just linked it in the chat to track replacement of dynamic Haml to Vue templates. If you're interested, some of those are actually replaced in boards that was done recently, so we should tick them off at some point, but it will give you an idea of like, this is just a dynamic one, so I think these are the ones that import Vue components, I would say. So it's not all the Haml templates, I think, but there is this issue that tracks at least some of those migrations. So there is a company-wide initiative to make that happen, to answer your question.
Yeah, lots of board stuff in there, huh, Flori? Dynamic seems like maybe the right, dynamic seems like maybe the right filter, right? Because you get a lot of the benefits of Vue in any kind of dynamic template than a static thing, right?
I think it's like we started doing the migration, but it's hard to do it like all at once. So it's like an in progress work to like mix Haml and Vue components.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of why I thought of it in the context of as product managers are planning work. Like if when we make program boards, as an example, like we should make sure we're accounting in estimates and how we think about it from a timeline perspective to make sure we pad enough time and allow engineering to do the work to migrate. Right. So that's kind of the context there. But. Sweet.
All right, nice job, Julian.
Yeah, great job, Julian.
Thank you.
So last thing here was Simon, which I'll just verbalize for him. How should we participate async in the plan call after recording? We can add extra items to previous meetings, but it's not likely to be seen, especially by people who attended the call or already viewed the notes. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts? Create issues on the things
maybe so far what I've seen to work, I guess, is when we publish the recording on the plan Slack channel. It's like just keeping the conversation going in there, like either in the thread of the video or under somewhere, especially if we have multiple points to talk about, and we can like create threads per topic or something. But I feel like after publishing the video in the plan channel is probably a good idea. That's what I've been doing when I needed to add something. So
Yeah, maybe one of us could like, once that conversation is resolved, sort of like move it to the doc for for continuity after Slack clears out or something. So we have that stuff historically or something. Like, I don't know if that's worthwhile or not, but just keeping it in a permanent space rather than Slack, which is kind of impermanent.
It's not a bad idea. Is Simon also asking, like, say he has something he wants, like now, like something he wants to discuss, like, or have the team discuss it? What's the best way to make sure that it's discussed and followed up on? I mean, he did a good job by putting it in the notes, right? I guess he did say after the recording though, not before. Answer my own question.
Could be, I mean, if there's something that like needs, if Flori's suggestion doesn't work, like if something needed to be an issue, that needed like broad team discussion about, it could be an issue in the plan group.
Yeah, right.
But that seems like that would be rare, I guess, that where that case would arise.
Yeah, it seems like the right whatever. What do you call it? Escalation path, right? It's like continue the thread as a thread off of the video when someone posts the video. If it becomes meaty enough, then we can promote it into an issue and carry it on from there.
Do you guys want to do y'all want to brainstorm changelog entry for iterations? Is it just adds iterations?
I've actually never looked at any changelog entries before, so
they're usually about like bug fixes or I was trying to find like an example of one that was like adds a whole brand new feature that's not really didn't exist before, and I didn't find any good examples. So
I mean, it's mostly just so there's a date timestamp record of when the change was made, right? It's not like trying to describe the change like a document.
Right. There's a couple that are enables blank feature flag by default as changelog entry. So I could also say like enables iterations feature flag by default. I mean, that's actually what the change is for this MR. I don't know.
That's probably fine. I suppose the use case is like if something's wrong down the road and they want to know what happened when they search iterations and should find it, right? So as long as you use the word iterations, you're safe.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Just make sure. So there's a couple different options. Make sure you choose feature add, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I think turned on or defaulted iterations feature flag.
Okay.
Because the name of the feature flag is actually group iterations, but I don't know. Yeah, defaulted iterations to on, I guess is probably good. All right, it's been a while since I've defaulted on, and we should probably make sure that we did not include a feature flag with all of the other MRs. I know we have in the docs saying that we should not include a feature or a changelog until the feature flag is turned on or the feature flag is removed. We should make sure first that that is the actual that's still the process that we take.
Okay, I'll check that.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks,
Anyone
everyone.
else? Cool.
Have a great day.
Cool. Bye,
And
everyone.
night, Jake.
Yeah.
Thank
Take it
you.
easy.
Get some
See
rest.
you later.
It's bedtime.
Yeah.
Bye.